I still remember the exact tone of her voice. Not loud, not angry, just sharp enough to cut. "Sir, you need to move to the back." I was already standing in the aisle of first class when she said it. People had settled into their wide leather seats, headphones on champagne glasses half full. The cabin smelled like citrus wipes and expensive cologne. And suddenly, every head turned toward me. I looked down at my boarding pass again, even though I already knew what it said. 2A, first class. I held it out calm, steady. "I think there's a misunderstanding. This is my seat." She didn't take the paper at first. She looked at me instead, not really at me, more like through me, like she'd already decided who I was before I ever opened my mouth. "Young man," she said, smiling in that tight, professional way that doesn't reach the eyes, "first-class boarding is finished. Economy is further back." I felt a few people shifting in their seats. Someone coughed. Someone else laughed quietly, like this was a harmless little mix-up. I'd felt that laugh before. Growing up mostly. In stores. At school events. Anywhere I didn't look like I belonged. I handed her the boarding pass anyway. Her smile vanished. She examined it the way a cop looks at a fake ID, flipping it, squinting, holding it up to the light. She took just a little too long enough for the silence to get uncomfortable. "This doesn't look right," she said finally, loud enough for half the cabin to hear. "We've had issues with fraudulent passes recently." Fraudulent. The word landed heavier than it should have. I took a slow breath. "It's valid. I paid for the seat myself." She tilted her head. "With what, your parents' card?" A few eyebrows went up. Someone across the aisle pulled out their phone. I noticed the little red recording light turn on. That's when I realized this wasn't just happening to me anymore. It was becoming a show. I could feel my chest tighten, that familiar mix of embarrassment and anger, but I kept my voice even. "I can show you my ID, or the receipt." "I don't need to see anything else," she said quickly. "I need you to step aside so we can continue boarding." I didn't move, not because I wanted to make a scene, but because something in me snapped quietly. I'd spent too much of my life stepping aside to make other people comfortable. A supervisor showed up a moment later, mid-40s, rushed, already annoyed. He looked at me once, just once. "Problem?" he asked her. "He's trying to sit in first class," she said. "Documentation doesn't seem legitimate." The supervisor sighed and turned to me. "Sir, let's not make this difficult. You can sort this out at the gate." "Sort what out?" I asked. "I have a valid ticket. I'm not being disruptive." He didn't answer that. He just said, "Please step off the aircraft." That's when I noticed how quiet the plane had gotten. Even the hum of conversation had died. People were watching now, not curious anymore, but uneasy. I thought about all the ways I could end this quickly. I could name schools, numbers, companies. I could say my last name and watch their faces change. But I didn't. Because here's the thing, no one tells you if you have to explain your worth, you've already lost something. So I stood there, calm, silent. Security arrived. That's when my phone buzzed in my pocket. I didn't even have to look to know who it was. I'd seen the name 100 times growing up, flashing on screens in boardrooms, conference calls, late dinners. My dad. I hesitated, just for a second. Part of me still hoped someone would stop this before I had to make that call. That someone would look at the situation and say, "This doesn't make sense." No one did. So I pulled out my phone. "I'm going to make one call," I said quietly. The supervisor scoffed. "You can do that in the terminal." "I think I'll do it here." The phone rang. Once. Twice. You could feel the tension shift, like the air pressure dropping. The flight attendant crossed her arms, but her confidence wavered just a little. On the third ring, the call connected. "Hey, Dad." His voice came through the speaker, calm and unmistakably familiar. "Hey, you boarding?" "Already on," I said. "But there's an issue." The silence that followed was unreal. You could hear the plane breathing. "What kind of issue?" he asked. I looked at the flight attendant, at the supervisor, at the phones pointed in my direction. "I'm being asked to leave first class," I said. "They think my ticket is fake." There was a pause, not confusion, calculation. "Are you safe?" he asked. "Yes." "Put whoever's in charge on the phone." The supervisor's face changed. Slowly. Like someone realizing they'd walked into the wrong room. The flight attendant shook her head, eyes wide, but the supervisor reached for the phone anyway. "This is..." My dad cut him off. Not loudly, not angrily. "Before you continue," he said, "I need you to answer one question. What exactly made you decide my son didn't belong in that seat?" No one spoke. Phones kept recording. I'm listening, my dad said. The supervisor swallowed. He's young, and it's unusual. Unusual for whom, my dad asked. That was it. That was the moment the room tipped. The supervisor tried to backpedal. The flight attendant stared at the floor. Security shifted their weight. I'm the CEO of this airline, my dad said finally, and that aircraft is not moving until this is resolved. You could almost hear the collective gasp. No yelling, no threats, just facts. I didn't feel victorious. I felt tired. Eventually, apologies came. Awkward, shaky. Too late to mean much. I nodded, accepted them, and took my seat. As I buckled in, the engines finally started again. The plane moved. Life went on. But something had changed, not just for them. For me, because that night reminded me of something important. Money didn't protect me. A last name didn't protect me. Staying calm did. Letting people reveal themselves did. And the truth, it doesn't need to shout, it just needs space. So let me ask you something. When someone decides you don't belong before you even speak, do you fight to prove them wrong, or do you let the truth arrive on its own? Tell me in the comments.